Hello, folks, and we have some great news for you. Well, maybe if you're not a Bitcoin idealist, but if you're looking for Bitcoin inflows into ETFs, we got it for you. We know that they had a lot of volume, but a lot of that was just grayscale trading like back and forth. What were the actual inflows of Bitcoin? How much are those ETFs sucking up? Well, BlackRock and Fidelity by themselves sucked up over $1 billion in Bitcoin over the first 2 days. They're still buying, but they sucked it up a lot. Now, BlackRock did buy over 11,000 Bitcoin on this dip. But I think some of you in my stream are actually kind of confused. They're like, BlackRock won't buy at these really high prices. They're going to tank Bitcoin and buy then. That's not really how it works, how an ETF works. See, like a spot ETF, you have to actually hold the underlying Bitcoin for your customers. BlackRock isn't actually buying the Bitcoin for themselves. They're buying it and putting it in Coinbase custody for their customers. So to them, it doesn't really matter what the price of Bitcoin is they actually buy. Essentially how it works is their customers give them like cash, they go buy the Bitcoin, charge a fee, and then put the coins in Coinbase custody. See, like they're actually interested in custodying your Bitcoin in this fund. They're not really buying Bitcoin by themselves. That's not to say they're not going to buy Bitcoin themselves. They may do that as part of their company's assets. I'm not really sure. But the bulk of the ETF is them just holding Bitcoin for other customers. It doesn't actually matter to them what the price of Bitcoin is. The price of Bitcoin is high, good, they still collect a fee. The price of Bitcoin is low, great, they still collect a fee. Realistically, they can't lose because they collect a fee either way, as long as customers are depositing in their ETFs. And the ETFs, once again, is more for like institutions. It's not really for individuals like you and me. We're going to buy Bitcoin, but people who aren't so sure in big institutions, they're going to buy the ETF, and BlackRock is going to collect a fee. The small sell-off we had from like 46 to 43 or 42,000 or whatever, it's like 7% dip, I guess. That's just more for buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. That isn't really having anything to do with like BlackRock wanting to sell the price down, because to them it really doesn't matter. They make money regardless, and that's all it is for them. It's all about money. Larry Fink really likes Bitcoin and Ethereum because he wants a Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, because as long as he gets that ETF, he makes money either way. So it's actually great for him. But the fact that they had to buy over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin over the first 2 days, and that's not counting the other stuff. Like Bitwise actually bought like $230 million as well, as have the others. Besides the Grayscale fund, BlackRock, Fidelity, and Bitwise are the biggest ones, and they bought like $1.4 billion worth of Bitcoin in the first 2 days. And I have a feeling they're going to continue buying. Now, some of that Bitcoin might have actually come from like Grayscale customers selling and the ETF having to sell the Bitcoin to pay off their customers, obviously. But some of it probably comes from the market as well. So when we talk about Coinbase selling $7.7 billion OTC, that actually goes back and forth. The actual BlackRock Fidelity inflow is over $1 billion. Bitwise, $230 million. And if you add all of them up together, the rest of the ETFs, this probably comes out to about $2 billion in terms of ETF inflows. Now, that's not really going to cut it with the customer demand. But, like it's all going to flow very, very slowly into the fund, which is why I said before that you're not going to get like a giant God candle at the beginning, because they say $150 billion over the course of 3 years. That's a lot of money, but $2 billion in the first 2 days, that's about what you'd expect. You actually expect, a lot like at first, and then like, over the course of days, you're thinking maybe like $100 million a day inflow into like all these funds combined, which won't have a gigantic like jolt on the price, but each day it should basically get the price to be a little bit higher, just upward creeping pressure, and that's really what we want. It does stabilize out the market a little bit, and it does actually like basically counteract all these like big sells that actually people are getting. Or if there are big sells, they'll be bought up fairly quickly, because essentially they'll be bought up like really, really quickly, because people actually there's actually like demand, constant demand every day. So a prolonged sell-off is much, much less likely. And the thing is, like BlackRock scooping up 11,500, Fidelity scooping up several. That's significant because like miners are selling, but they're buying multiple days worth of Bitcoin mining. They're buying multiple days worth of Bitcoin mining. all at once. So it might dry up part of that market as well. Like 11,500 BTC is roughly 13 days. You know, you get Fidelity, you have maybe like 8,000 BTC. That's maybe like another 9 days or so. And then Bitwise, maybe another 4 or 5 days or so. You know, so you're eating away at that miner supply, and you're going to eat into the OTC supply and whatever's available. And these are significant amounts. And that might actually result in a big supply crunch, even if Grayscale is selling out. Now, let's not forget, you still have Silk Road and all that stuff by the government, but eventually that's going to dry up too. Based on the data, the iShares Bitcoin Trust Spot ETF, this is from Crypto Slate, managed only around 25% of the trading volume over the same 2-day period. From this, one would infer that approximately 46,000 BTC were removed from the system over the past 2 days, with influences from other players like Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Now, Grayscale, I don't think is actually buying any for themselves. They have a huge stash of Bitcoin, and they're probably like more active in the selling. So the thing is, like, BlackRock is probably a little less than half all the inflows per day. So that might equate to like, 23,000, 24,000, maybe even 30,000 Bitcoin a day being eaten up. Now, it's not going to be at this rate, for a prolonged time. It'll probably be like a couple thousand Bitcoin eaten up per day. But even that couple thousand Bitcoin is more than they're actually mining, and that's where the supply crunch will happen. It'll take a while for the supply crunch to really happen, but as we get closer to halving time, I think the supply is going to get more and more constrained, and that's why I really don't think that Bitcoin is going to go down by 30% or so, because there's just too much demand, and people are going to be looking at the supply and be like, oh, it's getting less and less, I better keep my Bitcoin. So the ETF inflows, while it doesn't jolt Bitcoin price, there was a significant amount of inflows, and there's going to be a lot of creeping upward price from those Bitcoin inflows. So it is kind of a big deal. Gary Gensler was asked about the Ethereum ETF, and he refused to actually talk about it, instead saying that most crypto assets are securities, repeating his line. Now, that hasn't been proven in court, and I think he's going to be very, very wrong on that line very soon, especially if he ends up losing the Coinbase case, which starts around the 17th or the 18th. And that'll be a big one for us to actually watch. I think Gary Gensler knows that he can't say Ethereum is a security because he has too many connections within Ethereum, and they probably have a lot of dirt on the SEC as well. So if they go sue Ethereum, they're basically committing seppuku, and they don't really want to do that. But saying that Ethereum is not a security, however, gives other cryptos a weapon to actually use against the SEC. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and deservedly so. And Gary Gensler is just trying to tiptoe and politic his way out of things, and I don't actually think is actually going to work, because eventually he still has to face the fact that, does he consider Ethereum a security? And if he does not consider Ethereum a security, why does he consider anything else a security? Because, Ethereum did have an ICO. They do actively sell, and they actually benefited billions of dollars from that ICO. So if you're saying they're not a security, why is everything else a security? So I think Gary Gensler is trying to avoid that question, because essentially if they approve the Ethereum ETF, they are admitting that Ethereum is not a security, and most analysts believe they will actually approve the Ethereum ETF, because they're probably not going to do an about face right now after so many connections and come back and say Ethereum is a security, because I think that would rile up a lot of bigwigs, and Gary Gensler obviously doesn't want to do that. Remember, he has a lot of banking buddies, and they probably have investments in Ethereum or some affiliated products. Plus, we know that the SEC has connections with people like Consensus, and if that stuff gets out, it could be really bad for them. So a lot of stuff they actually have to hide, a lot of tracks they have to cover, but in doing so, it's going to make it harder and harder for them to advocate that all other cryptos are securities. India has finally done it. They've banned foreign exchanges altogether. Now, they were going towards this for quite a while, making things harder for Binance or other exchanges to actually operate in the country. But they're finally banning everything because they want to control all the cryptocurrencies in their country. Not really sure what they're going to do about DEXs. India being the world's largest democracy, they're going to find it really hard to ban VPNs and DEXs, and people are going to utilize those things if they aren't actually banned. In a significant move, India has implemented strict measures to ban foreign cryptocurrency exchanges from operating within its borders, citing concerns related to money laundering and non-compliance with anti-money laundering laws. In other words, the government does want their money. They're doing IP blocks to prevent access to foreign crypto platforms, but once again, the VPN thing is going to be a problem for them. So the Ministry of Electronics Information Technology in India initiated an IP block that prevents Indian citizens from accessing the URLs of foreign cryptocurrency platforms. However, despite these restrictions, as per a Crypto Slate investigation, some users could still access the websites of Binance, OKX, and KuCoin via Google Chrome, albeit without using a virtual private network. But with a VPN, it's going to be very, very hard for the Indian government to actually detect. Of course, the Binance website was also accessible through Safari and Mozilla Firefox browsers, so I don't know if the IP block actually involves them or not. And of course, Binance, OKX, KuCoin, they can refuse to serve Indian customers, but of course the customers could actually lie about their details. I'm not going to suggest anyone actually do that because I think it's very, very risky when you lie about your details, because if something goes wrong with your account, you are really, really screwed and you don't have any way to actually get your money back. And of course, like they're concerned that certain international exchanges may be involved in money laundering. I think this is just a protectionist move to protect their own exchanges like WazirX. And WazirX might be one to watch because if they're the biggest Indian exchange out there and they've banned all foreign exchanges, they're the ones that are most likely going to benefit. So yes, kind of a setback for Indian investors of crypto, but we'll see how long this can actually hold out. I think a lot of the companies are going to move to VPNs and DEXs, and they're going to have a harder time tracking than through these centralized exchanges. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.